Welcome back, social media family and sober family. It is good to be back. Welcome to another episode of Recovery Talk, brought to you by Pro Recovery Power. Now, I apologize if I look a little tired. I just got off an airplane about an hour and a half ago. I'm committed to doing these shows. Early on in recovery, they said, look, hey, life happens. We live life on life terms. We suit up, we show up. We suit up, we show up. Tragedy comes to visit our house. We suit up, we show up. Going through a divorce, we suit up, we show up. That's something that was instilled in me early on in recovery, and that's something that I understood, and it stuck with me ever since. We went out to Wyoming, me and my family, to go and celebrate Marty's 20 years of continuous sobriety. And we just got back an hour and a half ago, and we made it home. I was here to be back in time for this live show. And I'm really excited about it. I really am. But this is just a reminder. A lot of people, I still get some messages. Well, what are you guys? PRP. Me and my wife were in the middle of turning PRP into a nonprofit organization. Just so you guys know, yes, we got recovery clothing. We go live. We got a bunch of other things. But we will be a nonprofit that goes live with other addicts and alcoholics that has recovery clothing and things like that. Today can be a great show. We got Mariah on today, all the way from North Dakota. I was a little closer to her out there in Wyoming these last few days. But let's see. Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm not paying attention when I start talking. Let's get her in here and we can get this party started. Hey, there she is. What's
How's it
up?
going?
Good. Sorry, I'm like feel so dehydrated, man. All this traveling we just did and stuff. Oh my
I'm so
goodness.
glad your flight was on time. I was just like, well, no news is good news. I think it's still the time
Right.
that we suggested.
Yeah, because on the way going out there to Wyoming, our flight was delayed. I mean, it should have only took us like an hour and a half, 2 hours. The total travel time was like 10 hours long
Oh
because there
my
was just
God.
like delay on top of delay, and like traveling with a little baby, our little baby. Oh man. And like he wasn't sleeping good, and plus, we flew into Salt Lake City, and it's like a 2.5 hour drive to Wyoming. So we went to sleep at like 4:30 in the morning the first night. Second night, oh man, my son still didn't sleep good. I went to sleep at 5:30 in the morning that morning. So I still kind of running on fumes, man. But
Well,
I'm committed to doing these things, helping other people. I figured out, well, I didn't figure out, I didn't. I was told that it wasn't all about me, and I understood that, So I'm here to, support you, give other people a platform to tell this story, inspires hope. I've been following you for a long time. I've been following you a lot longer than you've been following me, actually. I don't think you know that,
I don't
because
think
I
so.
get the PRP and my personal page, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
But like I was texting you last night, just by see, when I meet somebody in real life, or you listen to somebody talk, or you see the things that they post, people will expose the way that they think. You cannot hide that. And just following you for, I don't know, almost a year or something. But the content you post, everything, you get some funny ones too. But I can see that you work a solid program of recovery. You're not just simply sober, and that's awesome. That's great. What's up, everybody? Hi. Sorry, I can't
Hey, you
wave back
guys.
to you guys. Yeah. So thank you, Mariah, for agreeing to do this. This is, I don't want to steal your thunder, but it's the first time you're going live and like telling your story. I'm
Yeah, I've
excited about this.
I've told my story like in person. Oh, shoot. Okay,
Mhm.
hi. When there's like, I don't know, a couple people present at a meeting, but not like on a live video like this. That's going to be
Yeah.
reshared and posted.
Yeah.
So,
A bunch of people was messaging me about how excited they were for this one. So I mean, no pressure though, but
no,
just
I mean,
yeah.
I'm excited. It's just, I'm nervous in the best way. I keep on
Right.
saying so.
Right. Okay. So before we get into your story and everything, I just wanted to ask you, how long have you been sober?
I got sober September 10th of 2019.
Okay. Hey,
So
my
almost two
birthday.
years.
My birthday is September 15th.
Really?
And
Belly
my
button
son,
or
no, my belly button birthday.
okay,
Yeah, my
nice.
son's birthday was one day after mine. It's September 16th.
Oh, cool.
We were at the hospital on the 15th because thinking my wife, she was gonna give birth ready, But yeah, he didn't come to the 16th. That would have been
That's awesome.
cool.
It's a good week and like a good couple of days stretch there.
Yeah. Okay. And then where are you from?
I was born in Fargo, raised in Sheldon, North Dakota. My
Uh,
accent might probably come through when I'm
oh yeah.
talking. And then I lived in Fargo for over a decade, and now I live back in Sheldon at my great grandparents' home
Okay.
for the time being.
Fargo, like the movie Fargo?
Like
Like
the movie
over
Fargo,
there?
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, right on. Okay, and then what was your choice in drink and or drug?
Um, Alcohol, absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
all the time, every
Yeah.
day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that was like a prerequisite for life. And then, it was weed to put me to sleep or to zone out, and it
Yeah.
was towards like the last year or 2 years of my using, I dove into cocaine
Mm-hmm.
and really any type of pill that anyone had.
Oh right.
There were several occasions, someone would try and hand me something at a party or something, and I would ask what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
one time someone was like, "Does it matter?" And I was like, "No, no, it doesn't." And I just took
Right,
it,
right.
like
Yeah.
it's anything to put me up, So there was stuff
Right.
like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I mentioned already that, I've been following you for a while and I see like how your life transformed, being in recovery, being sober, working an active program. But not just that, I noticed the physical transformation that you had, which is, my hat is off to you, girl. I mean,
Thanks.
getting sober is hard enough. But to go to a physical, the only other woman I know like that is Alex. You follow Alex out in Canada?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I mean, my goodness, that's like quadruple the work, man. you know.
Yeah.
So
It's been the hardest thing I've ever done my whole life. Like,
yeah, all right on, man. Well, I'm happy for you. Thank God. Okay. Okay. Real quick before we get into your story, I just want to tell everybody a reminder. Pro Recovery Power. We host a recovery meeting every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's through Zoom. All the information is on our page. You can go and check that out. Also, one last thing. If you guys would be so kind, go to our website on the bottom right-hand corner at prorecoverypower.com. There's a little survey. We would like you guys feedback, and we would like to know how we can impact, how we are impacting the community, and also how we can improve, because that will move the vision of PRP forward. So now, sorry, I can't even talk, man. I've been up for so long. But anyways, now I'll give you the floor to tell your story now.
oh, thank you. You're
Mhm.
doing great. Thank you so much. Honestly, when you DM'd me and asked me to do this, I like instantaneously was like, Mariah, say yes. So I told you yes. And then
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, I told him yes. Now I have to follow
Yeah.
through.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've never told my story. Like I guess the full thing, like I make posts, and I've kind of shown snippets here and there.
Mhm.
Um, but it's been nerve-wracking. I grew up in Sheldon, North Dakota.
Mhm.
Literally I call it the sticks or the boonies, whichever one you want to call it. And I went to like I had 7 people in my class until I was in 7th grade. And
Wow.
then we moved to another school. We combined schools, and then we had 24 kids in my class, and that's how many I graduated with. So yeah, it is hopping out here for sure. But like with the small town, um, I was told to not really talk about anything, to
Mhm.
be quiet and to not address anything that was going on in my home life and the way that we were raised. So, I mean, as kids, so like I grew up in, it's just kind of like factual information now. I grew up in an abusive alcoholic home. Both my parents drank heavily, still do from time to time. But as a kid, I didn't really know what that meant. I
Mhm.
just thought it was normal and I didn't understand. And it was constantly like on high alert, with my dad being very scary.
Mhm. Yeah.
And before, so when I went to treatment and I would speak with my counselor to my group or whatever, I was so angry in telling my story. And
Mhm.
I still get those bouts of like anger and kind of like why, why did it have to be this way, or like understanding that like everybody has a choice to heal, and understanding that the adults in my life like didn't make that choice. And here I am like trying to make the choice to like break the chains like on my own. It's been really frustrating at times when I let myself get into that mindset. But now when I share at meetings or posts or whatever, I want to just reiterate that like there are no good or bad people in my story. Like I'm not the good guy, like like my dad like is not the bad guy. Like it's just that I come from a generation, like multiple generations passed down of massive trauma, like physical abuse, like alcohol abuse. Literally I lost all my grandparents to alcohol. Or some kind of cancer or something due to their health and the way that they've treated their bodies. So it's just been really frustrating. But here I am trying to share my story to get it through that. Like if we can share our stories and open up and connect, we can make change.
Yes.
So yeah, I was a little girl out here. I have a middle sister. I have a big sister. She's 2 years older, and my younger sister is 5 years younger. And it was just us, and we were growing up. We were like team mom, because we were always having to defend her, and having to, we had like extra bags and stuff packed. So when we had to leave the house, like in emergencies, when it was too chaotic, my job was to grab the family dog and to grab the bags and make sure that my little sister was rounded up. Like I had like specific tasks, within the home. And then when it wasn't in like the height of the moment, every other part of my role in the family was to just keep the peace. And to see like what I could do to like walk on eggshells, make sure everybody was okay emotionally, so then it wasn't gonna escalate, which a lot of times was just like hiding or just like making myself removed from the situation. But that like it did a lot to me as a little girl. I didn't really understand until I started my healing journey how deep those like wounds and that trauma is. So I classify myself as an adult child of an alcoholic home, and so like ACOA, like, and I've like read all the texts, and I'm like, oh my god, like they give you like a laundry list, and I'm all of the things. It's insane. But yeah, so I started drinking when I was 12. We had a family friend as our babysitter, and still to this day, she's like such a role model of mine. She's like so cool, but there were times where she was the one watching us. So she would have like high school boys over, and they would all be drinking. And so we were like little kids, like watching everybody else, like with these cool, big, like high school guys, and they were so cute, and they were over and drinking and playing spin the bottle and like whatever it was, and I couldn't wait to like be cool enough to join in. So when I was 12, I had my first drink. 13, I started like sneaking drinks here and there. 14, I was drinking regularly, like on the weekends. It was very normal. Got myself a high school boyfriend, dated him for 4 years, and that was like our thing. We would drive around drinking Busch Light and Boone's Farm and just, get drunk. That was the goal of the weekend, couldn't wait till Friday. Because I grew up in a small town where it's like it's farmers and it's blue collar workers, and that's what they couldn't wait. It's Friday and that's that. And I also grew up in an area where it's like, if you had problems at home, you didn't share them with anybody else. Those were problems to be kept at home, and it's very sheltered here. And I realized that growing up, I've always been really observant at kind of how adults are reacting instead of responding, and just like their beliefs. And I've never really understood it, whether it's like racism or sexism or just like blatant things being said all around me by the adults that I'm supposed to trust. I've always been like, I don't get it. Like I don't agree. So like in high school, I started like pushing back, and like I've always been kind of the weird black sheep. In high school, my drinking super escalated. I would like dabble here and there with weed, but I have asthma, and so I've always just like anything like into my lungs, it's not my thing. It makes me sick, and then I'm like sick for like a week. So it just wasn't my thing. But yeah, I started like dabbling with like vegetarianism, and like I don't know. I'm such an empath. That's like the reason why I was like, because I grew up on a farm with chickens, and like
Mm.
one day my dad came home and was like lopping heads off the chickens, and I was like, "What are you doing with Henry? Like, don't do that!" Like, and they were like my animal. They were my pets,
Yeah.
Anyway, but that like it was like an empathetic thing for me, but at the same time, it wasn't really nutrition. I wasn't focusing on taking care of myself and being
Hmm.
healthier. It was, how can I be as small as possible? How can I
Yeah.
be skinny, tiny, not fat? How can I fit into these like silver jeans or
Hmm.
Abercrombie or whatever it was that I
Hmm.
wanted at the time? And at the same time, there were girls that like would wear those things, and we couldn't afford that.
Hmm.
So I always felt like left out. And there were days, especially when I was little, I'd wear like the same clothes to school the next day because we couldn't go home because my dad was like drunk and being crazy. So like it was just a whole lot of like I didn't feel like I fit in like with a lot of things.
Hmm.
But yeah, I drank really heavily in high school. It was like part of my identity that I could drink the boys under the table, like, or at least keep up.
Uh-huh.
And I've always been like that. And I'm 5'3", like not very large, so like it kind of took a lot for me to like have that tolerance.
Hmm.
But when you start at such a young age and it's like your main hobby, I mean, you get used to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so I went to college, and I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get out of my small town, and I was so nervous. And I went to North Dakota State in Fargo, and ended up majoring in sociology
Hmm.
because I realized that there were courses that I could take that would teach me about human beings. And
Yeah.
I've always been so interested in other walks of life that aren't exactly everything that I was raised around. I wanted to challenge and learn educational views of like these like sexist views, and like the way that women were treated, or like
Hmm.
the fact that I didn't really know anybody else that wasn't white or Christian. I was
Hmm.
just like, I've always been so interested in like expanding myself on that. And I took this course on domestic violence. And there was a full lecture of like the wheel of violence and the cycle of violence, and it fit my home to a T. And I was just like, holy shit, like I could take a course and major in how to learn more about my family and where I came
Yeah.
from, and how to maybe stop that cycle, and how to educate other people so then they don't have to go through this anymore. So I majored in sociology, child development, and a minor in women's studies. And at the same time, while I'm like throwing myself into school, because that was my thing when I was little, keep the peace, right? Bring home a
Hmm.
good grade, make sure everybody's proud of you, make sure you get some kind of value,
Right.
and validation, and then you're good.
Hmm.
And so I, yeah, double majored, got a minor, almost triple majored, started teaching when I was an undergrad. And it was so weird because my using had so like escalated. I was like the weirdo in the college dorms where I was a heavy drinker,
Hmm.
and I didn't know how to like express it to my friends. So like I would be the one that would like take 3 or 4 shooters
Hmm.
and then bring up the idea that maybe we could like have a few drinks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I wanted to get ahead of the game. And so I was the one that like introduced my dorm mates who were like from the cities and like totally different lifestyle of how their parents were with them. And um I would bring in drinks into the dorm, and
Hmm.
they would be like, how do I do it? And I'd be the one like teaching them
Uh-huh.
like how to like take tequila shots, like salt, lime, whatever. And
Uh-huh.
like that was my thing. And I started dating a guy in college, and he was super into like fitness and nutrition, and I was so intrigued with it. Well, okay, first off, I was so like codependent, and I didn't understand what that was.
Hmm.
But literally, I wanted to be whatever he wanted me to be. And like,
Yeah.
so I was. So whatever he wanted out of me, that's what it was. Like, I
Hmm.
wore what he wanted me to wear. I went to the gym because he wanted me to. I fucking hated the gym back then. Like, did not like it. Because all I wanted to do was drink. I was like, why would you
Hmm.
waste an hour in the gym when you could be at the bar an extra hour? Like, I
Right.
didn't get it. Like,
Hmm.
and he wasn't aligned with that. So eventually, like, shit hit the fan when I was like really over drinking, and my lack of self-esteem and everything was just so low. It was ridiculous. And when he broke up with me, I like lost my shit, for like lack
Hmm.
of better phrasing. I
Hmm.
I didn't know who I was
Hmm.
at all. And so I dove really heavily into drinking, smoking weed, sleeping with random guys that I would not recognize them on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I was just looking for anything to like get me out of my own head.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, I didn't know where to turn, you know? So I
Right.
graduated with my bachelor's that I was working on, and was offered a position to be an instructor at NDSU. Mind
Mm-hmm.
you, I'm like carrying like, I discovered that you can fit a full bottle of wine in a Camelback. So like that was like my snack that I would like bring to class, you know,
Mm-hmm.
as I'm teaching. And there was one time I was teaching and like shooters fell out of my purse onto the floor, and I had to like pick them up and put them back in my purse. And the students like in the front row saw me, and I was just like, you know, and I would like make jokes, and I was like their same age, you know, like I would
Right.
run I'd go into a party and I would see a student of mine like dancing topless on the table taking shots, and I'd be like, see you Tuesday, Chelsea. Just like super weird. But I was living this double life. Like I didn't know I didn't know how to like pick one life or the other life because I
Mm-hmm.
was living both of them. Um, so I got broken up with, and I like didn't know what to do. So I was like, well, I got into a grad program, so I might as well go back to grad school, take this instructor position. And like that's where I felt like I had purpose, is
Mm-hmm.
like teaching, you know, women's rights and social justice and like race theory and, you know, stuff like that. Like I realized that I could make the world a better place just by
Mm-hmm.
creating, like changing people's mindsets, and like maybe they would be better parents, better citizens, better
Mm-hmm.
to themselves, you know,
Right.
even though I didn't know what that meant for me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've always been like so invested in helping other people. And in the height of my addiction, I was like suicidal and didn't know how to help myself. I didn't want to help myself. I didn't think that I was worth it. So, yeah, I was teaching in my master's program, and a couple of days out of finishing my master's thesis, and I had been going to therapy off and on, seeing a counselor for like
Mm-hmm.
mental health. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety and PTSD, like the first or second semester in college. And but here's the thing, like I'd be going to therapy and not telling my counselor the reality of
Mm-hmm.
like how much I was using or what I was using, or um and it was not like, it didn't make sense, you know. It's like I went for someone to talk to, maybe
Mm-hmm.
to like vent, but I wasn't really going to be open in order to
Mm-hmm.
solve my problems, you know. And she had put me on this antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, and I was under my dad's insurance at the time, but my
Mm-hmm.
dad got a DUI. So then his insurance was shut off for a little bit. And when I
Mm-hmm.
went to go refill the prescription, they wouldn't give me my prescription because my dad's insurance was like blocked. So
Oh.
I just said, fuck it, and stopped taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that didn't go well with my system to just randomly stop it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at a bar and was extremely angry. At this point, I was getting into like bar fights a lot. I would like pick
Mm-hmm.
fights with men and ended up like hitting a few of them. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I was just mean. I was just angry with people and myself and the world. And yeah, over drinking. And then plus, like, you add cocaine into that mix, and like, you're not a very kind person,
Yeah.
even, you know. So I ended up putting my car through a garage on my way home to my apartment that night
Mm-hmm.
after. So I was like withdrawing from these like anti-anxiety meds, or like
Mm-hmm.
they were just out of my system out of the
Right.
blue, you know? And I knew that I felt weird. Like my normal drunkenness was really thrown off. And
Mm-hmm.
so I drove home like very, very drunk and put my car through a garage, ended up trying to park it on the street, and went upstairs and just passed out. Woke up to cops like pounding my door down, and I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, and clearly I have anxiety, like clearly, and
Mm-hmm.
also, you know, maybe cocaine and anger issues. And
Yeah.
so I ended up assaulting the cop,
Oh, wow.
and getting arrested, and got put in jail, and was there for like 3 days. And I got bailed out just in time, but it was one of my best friends' weddings the next day. So I got out in time for like the groom's dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and literally showed up trying to be like smiling. the next day in wedding pictures, and it was fucking terrible because everybody from my hometown, like I was on the news. It was just not cool. And my students saw that because I was
Oh,
teaching at
wow.
the time.
Wow.
And yeah. So my professor had to fill in for me and like explain to my students, like, yep, so you might have seen the news. And it was really embarrassing. And like on top of that, clearly I was already like living a double life and not telling. I mean, my she was like the coordinator for the program that I was teaching for. She
Mhm.
like had no idea what my other side of my life looked like, you know. And so like to show my face after all of that and just be like, well, I'm out. Like it was so shameful. I was
Right.
so embarrassed. And it just made my like suicidal tendencies and thoughts and just like I spiraled so hard and I dove way harder into like the party scene. I found a group of friends, you know, it was so easy to just like, you know, use my body or, you know, find my way into cocaine. And I took out a credit card in order to literally get cash advances to pay for coke. And
Mm-hmm.
I graduated with my master's. And so my teaching job was up and I didn't really have a purpose. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Uh-huh.
And I applied for a PhD program, three of them, and I got denied by all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what to do. So I took up another bartending job. So I was working two bartending jobs full time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awesome for a while. You know, it was
Mm-hmm.
fun. You know, you didn't have to work till 3 p.m. You
Yeah.
know, you can get off at, you know, maybe 1:30, you know, or maybe 2. And I had friends that would keep the bar open late and let me in, you know, behind the closed door. And we'd be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, doing lines and shots off the counters. And like, you know, you can stay up until 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. if you don't have to work until 3.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I live my life. I started like finishing like a bottle of vodka a day, and
Mm-hmm.
that was on credit cards too. And I was
Uh,
just a hot mess, you know. And I ended up getting fired from my bartending job because I showed up high and drunk one day. And I don't remember, but there might have been a situation with a rich old lady asking for a martini. I don't really remember.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I went home and then I got fired the next day. And yeah, I kind of like hit rock bottom. And I don't know, I guess my parents, my mom has always like been there for me, but she was kind of dealing with her own stuff over here too. Her codependency and taking care of her kids was literally her life. So when we moved out of the home, I think my mom got really lost for a while there. And so I lost touch with her, and she was in a really rough mental spot too, you know, being
Mm-hmm.
just stuck with my dad out here. She didn't, I don't
Yeah.
blame her for not knowing how to live life, you know. And there was one day she texted me and she said, Mariah, what is going on? Like, what's wrong with you? And it wasn't a judgment. It was like from a place of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her that I had gotten fired. And my older sister ended up calling me. I was like laying in bed, and I didn't think that I would like live to see the next day. I didn't want to. Yeah, I had a plan and everything, and I was like ready to just be done. I was so in the dark. I didn't see a way out. Um, I was going to lose my apartment. I was going to have to, it was like, for real, I thought that people would be better without me here because I felt
Mm-hmm.
like such a burden
Mm-hmm.
because I was so embarrassed and so far in debt. And I had gotten all the way through I had a master's degree, and
Mm-hmm.
I literally got fired from a bartending job and didn't know what to do for like money.
Right.
And it was just ending my life sounded easier than telling anybody about
Mm-hmm.
my mistakes.
Yeah.
Like it literally sounded like better.
Mm-hmm.
And my older sister called me and asked me if she would pick me up if I would please go to like a mental health evaluation. And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
went to treatment. Um, yeah, so that was really, really difficult.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I went to treatment in the beginning of June of 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and it was an outpatient treatment. And I was like high the whole time. And they kept on telling me that like my UAs were dirty. And I was like, yeah, what are you going to do? Like, should I just not come back tomorrow? And they were like, please keep coming back. And I was like, okay. I was like so stubborn. I was so like mean to my counselor. I was rude. I didn't want help. I didn't want
Mhm.
anyone to, I don't know. I didn't really, that was the hardest thing is like I knew that I was like literally suicidal and I couldn't decide if I wanted to do something about it or if I wanted to change. Because I knew that I would have to literally change everything about myself and it just
Mhm.
seemed like so much work. And I was so
Yeah.
depressed that I was like, I don't want to do any hard work. Like it's already hard to just live life. Like I don't want to do anymore.
Mhm.
Um, but I ended up sticking it out. I stuck out my full treatment, graduated. The day that I graduated, we found out that my mom had stage 3C, almost stage 4 lung cancer, and that was really difficult.
Mhm.
And I was just like, okay, so here I am getting this new beginning with like, not sure if I'm about to lose my mom. Like, it was really weird. It was hard. Um, but I was so angry with her, at that point. I honestly, like, it's sad, but I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, well, I've gone this far without relying on my parents,
Yeah.
for like emotional support and stuff. Like, I don't know how much, I don't know how much my life would change, you know. Um, but she's doing so much better now. She's in remission, and I'm like creating a bond with her today that is so cool. Like it's been phenomenal. Like
Mhm.
that between that news and like the abrupt news and then like just kind of like beginning of recovery, you're like, I'm not even sure if I want to stay clean. I wasn't even clean like in treatment, so like the few days that I could string together, it was a miracle for real. And I
Mhm.
started going to a 12-step program, and those people seemed like they had their shit together, and I was like, you guys are laughing and like, and you seem like calm,
Mhm.
and I just thought it was, I thought it was incredible, but I couldn't understand it, and I also was like, I'm not like you guys,
Uh-huh.
like, oh well, I've never been to prison, so like I don't
Mhm.
belong, or like, oh well, like I didn't use needles, so like I don't belong, and
Mhm.
like all these things, like all this bullshit that I fed myself,
Uh-huh.
like but I'm different though, and there's that like pompous dickhead Mariah too that like, well, I have my master's, so like I don't belong here, and the minute that I like, there's this old man in the program that has his master's, and he was talking about his career and stuff, and he finally could use his, degree because he was clean, and I was like, oh shit, like, and then I was like, oh, you mean like addicts can be from all walks of life? They're not like the
Uh-huh.
homeless man on the corner with like no shoes. Like, you mean like I can be one of those? Maybe I'm an addict.
Uh-huh.
And I like didn't even know what that term meant, and but you read all the facts and check all the boxes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, I guess I'm that too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's been a freaking journey, but recovery has been such a freaking miracle.
Yeah.
I can't even explain. How I live life today is nothing like how I was living life 2 years ago. Like
Mhm.
2 years ago during the summer, I was still ebbing and flowing between using and being clean and using and being clean. And
Mhm.
I don't know. There's that 30-day key tag, and I got that 30-day key tag so many times. I
Yeah.
was like, I cannot get the 60-day. I couldn't make it, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I took one more night going out and being completely scared shitless, out of the way that I so quickly went from I'm I literally, the last day of me using, I was at a vegetarian festival downtown Fargo, which like we don't have any of those, so I was really hyped to be there. And I was there with my sponsor at the time from the 12-step program.
Mhm.
And I have a really soft spot in my heart for this one of my he's a guy that like basically showed me how to do my first line,
Mhm.
and I can't tell still to this day. I like journal about it. I'm like, am I in love with him or the cocaine? Like, I can't tell.
Mhm.
Like, I can't tell what I'm missing or whatever, but I heard him behind me. I heard his voice and his
Mhm.
laugh, and I just lost my shit. I left my sponsor there. I left. I called my one friend that I knew would enable me and like let me like drink in front of her, and I went over to her place, and like we're still really good friends. This woman and I are still really good friends. I just knew that like she was in the party scene too. So she would like let me vent and talk about this guy and talk about my emotions. And like if I
Mm-hmm.
had a glass of wine, she wouldn't like completely write me off, you know. So that's what I did. And that night I bought a bag, was back out having shots at one of my favorite bars. I was like, see, I missed this. Like I missed you guys. And it so took a turn for the worse. It was really terrible. Ended up with the wrong crowd and realizing that I wasn't meant to be in that crowd anymore. And this is what happens when I get myself into these
Mm-hmm.
situations, trying to do anything for drugs, trying to do anything to just get the high. And I was like, I gotta get out. And I ended up calling the police for my phone that night through all the events. And my mom called me she called me like that night. I woke her up and she said, we're getting notifications that you're calling the police from your phone. Are you okay? Are you alive?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, my mom was bald because she was going through her cancer treatment. And I
Yeah.
was just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm pretending and telling my family that I'm trying to stay sober. So then they are less worried about me
Mm-hmm.
while I'm like literally waking my mom up in between her chemotherapy sessions because she was going every day, driving an
Mm-hmm.
hour to go to the hospital every day to get these infusions. And I woke her up in the middle of the night and worried her like that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like, this needs to stop. And went on a bender for the next 2 days and don't remember anything. One of my good friends from the 12-step program came and found me in broad daylight on Broadway in Fargo downtown, took me
Mm-hmm.
out of my car, brought me home, put me to bed. Next morning, picked me up, brought me back to my car, and we went to a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Wow.
been clean ever
And
since,
the rest is history, basically.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Man, that's pretty awesome, man. That's a great story you got. I didn't know really anything. I know, people say that, all our stories are all basically the same and but not really. Like, it's different, but it's the thing that's the same that I get is that every story I've heard is very much encouraging. It really is. It doesn't really matter where somebody's from. I can always identify with especially how they thought, how they felt, and the things they did. Those three things, no matter girl, boy, you from Canada, you from Hawaii, you from New York, you from Alaska, it doesn't matter. Like that's something I always could identify with, when I listen to people's story. Man, and you're really educated. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, except for like that is like a whole another cloud of the shame of like knowing that I have that background and that training and like that like should,
Hmm.
which is, could with shame added to it.
Hmm.
And I didn't know. I was like, cool. So I like have all these things going for me and here I am choosing like drugs and, random hookups with people whose names I
Yeah.
forgot because I don't know what to do with my life. It's
Yeah.
like that's like the synopsis of my life, like being gifted all of these amazing, beautiful things and turning my back on them anyway. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
But
a
hey,
lot of
hey,
it like
look.
stems from like lack of self-worth and like
Mhm.
low confidence and just like not knowing that, I suppose it's that little girl growing up the way that
Mhm.
I did, just like not
Right.
believing that really we deserved good things or a good
Mhm.
life.
Yeah, well, you do, Mariah. You really do. There's a lot of people. Read these comments. I'm really proud of you. You have so much life ahead of you to use that though. Your degree. Look at Marty. He's clapping all the way from Wyoming. Giving you a clap. It's a big deal. Like I get what you're saying, and I can see how the confidence thing and how you grew up. It still affects you. To this day, but like everybody's saying, everybody is cheering you on right now. You're getting so much support, man. Like my eyes are starting to well up, honestly, just thinking about this because just seeing all of this, just seeing everybody, and like how we're just such like people in recovery. We're just such a tight knit like family. Like everybody, all of us, like you know what I mean. It's amazing, and how we're there for each other. We encourage each other. It's just so my book says it describes it as being indescribably wonderful.
Yeah.
And I agree. That has been my experience. For almost 5 years now, being sober and in recovery. Um, but you mentioned something that I could definitely relate to. when you're a bartender, how you show up to work drunk and high. Okay, I did that. The only difference is I worked my whole shift basically. I was partying for at least one whole day. Um, and I was at the point like I was way more high than drunk, and I was like I couldn't even talk straight. And I was working as a valet in Waikiki at the Trump. So it was like $100,000 cars I'm driving, like bring,
Oof.
and like, I mean, I cannot even talk straight and I'm just tweaking out, you know what I mean? I'm like driving these cars and they never sent me home. And like they all knew I was using, all of them. My boss knew because, the bellman was the one supplying everybody with cocaine, and he was an ex-drug dealer, my boss, and they knew each other. And so they just let me, work. That I mean, I was hoping they sent me home, but no. Like I don't know. To this day, I was always curious about why they still allowed me to work in that condition. Like it was
Yeah.
obvious that like something was wrong with me.
See, like I had so many opportunities. At my like smaller, it was like a burger joint, but like it was still a bartending job. And my boss literally pulled me into his office one day and he was like, "You're giving up a lot of shifts. When you're here, you're not really here. Like you seem like you're not even there. Like, are you okay?" And then he tried to just like gently be like, maybe there's like, and he was like, "It's none of my business if like your family has mental illness. Like, have you thought about getting an evaluation?" And at that point, I was so like scared of him finding out that I was like high on the job, and that I was like, I had to take shots to even like get out of bed in order to get my clothes on to come to work, and I didn't know what to say to him. And then I was also scared because I have one grandma still living, and she lives with bipolar disorder, and still to this day I get nervous, like I'm just not really sure like what's going on sometimes, and I was so terrified of just like, I just knew that something was really wrong with me, and like a lot of that was my own, like I know that there's something wrong with me, so I'm just going to drink and cover it up. But yeah, no, here's the thing is, I didn't think that the drink and the drugs were the things that were wrong with me. Like
Right.
I didn't make that connection.
We
I
never
thought it
do.
was, yeah, I was
Like
like,
we'll
oh
get
no,
rid
well,
of like this and that and this and that before we go to the drugs and alcohol.
well, and I really thought, I was so defensive. I think a lot of my anger and my stubbornness when I went to treatment is I truly believed that the alcohol and the cocaine at that point, because I had gotten to the point where I was waking up and doing lines on my own in my apartment.
Uh-huh.
And if I did have it when I was out, I wasn't telling anybody. I wasn't sharing anymore. It wasn't fun for me to share. I was getting angry when
Yeah.
people would
Yeah.
want to share. Um, and I got to the point where I truly believed that those things were my armor. Like I thought that they were protecting me and they were my shield, and it was the only way that I could live life. And so for people to even suggest to take those things away from me, I was throwing punches, like literally.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my one lifeline, and you're telling me to put it down? It didn't make any sense to me. And then here's the other thing, and I guess this can go both ways. It's an opinion, but it was my first day in treatment, and they threw me in with this psychologist lady the first day. I was still going through withdrawals, like having major issues, and she was trying to prescribe me like 3 different meds that I had never been on before. And I was like, lady, I don't even know how I am by myself naturally. I don't know what my natural state is. So what are you doing? Trying to like throw me on. And I was so mad at her. I was like, okay, so my street drugs aren't okay, and how I want to like regulate my mood, but yours are okay. Yours are fine. And I was like so angry, and
Yeah.
it wasn't great. But that's like that view of mine, the way that I handled it wasn't great. My view now, though, how my recovery has grown, I'm so in love with the holistic way of recovery for myself, because I understood once I did let those withdrawal symptoms go away, once I did stay clean for a certain amount of time, once I did start going to meetings and reading and trying to understand myself and the whys behind like my hurt and my pain and my issues of why I couldn't handle my emotions. When I was getting therapy, I realized like even when I'm drinking enough water, like my stomach feels better, like
Yeah.
my head's more clear. And I realized pretty quickly in that when I'm exercising, I can like manage my anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm in a super low mood, if I can just, there were so many times I'm like throwing on my workout shirt as I'm like crying because I just don't want to do it.
Uh-huh.
But as soon as I get up and I start moving, I stop crying and I just get my fucking ass moving. And by the
Uh-huh.
time the workout's done, I'm so much more leveled out. And it's not that extreme anymore, but in the beginning it was super hard to try to
Right.
like even think about why I wanted to treat my body with love when I hated it for so
Yeah.
long. I was either depriving it from food for days at a time, depriving it from sleep for days at a time,
Mhm.
and then being mad at it for not operating the way that I wanted it to.
Right. Yeah.
Or like I was shoving greasy food into it, shoving all these different drugs into it, mad at my
Mhm.
stomach for being too full because I drank too much. So I'd make myself throw up so then I could drink more,
Uh-huh.
and I would be so angry at my body for all of these things. And I never really looked at it like my body and I are friends. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to help it and it's here to make me live life and
Mm-hmm.
to get me through it, and I'm just so fucking grateful that it didn't quit on me for
Yeah.
how I treated it for so
I
long. So
know.
like I'm here now to help other people like maybe make those connections.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're a perfect example of that. It sounds like you're making amends to your body now, which is
Yeah.
great. That's awesome.
It was like
Um,
one of the biggest amends that I had to make.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you talked about, what did you say? Oh, like ending your life would have been easier, you contemplating suicide. Because I've done that too, like honestly, it was not even a big thing, like a family member died. It could be a girl broke up with me. Like literally the world is ending, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and things like that. And I contemplated suicide a bunch of times, but I was just too chicken to go through it, honestly. I was like, but wait, if I die, I cannot drink and use anymore. You know,
Yeah, for real.
like yeah. Well, as soon as like the heartbreak, emotional feelings went away, then I would think I can't drink and use if I'm dead though. So, oh no, I'll keep doing it. Like it was strange, man. My thinking
Honestly,
was,
my two lifelines still to this day, like whenever, and I haven't, like, thank God I haven't had a suicidal thought, like a real one, in a long time. I still get into my moods where that's one of my practices where like if I'll go on a walk to kind of like manage my mind.
uh-huh.
And on that walk, there's been a couple of times where I'll stop and I'll be like, am I suicidal right now? Like, is
Mhm.
this a suicidal thought? And kind of like assess. And it's been over a year since I've really been like, I need to probably tell somebody.
Mhm.
But it hasn't been. And it's
Yeah.
been really cool. Like I really have like a will to live. I want to be here,
All
and
right. And we
I'm
want
not,
you here. We want you here. Yeah.
it's so cool. I have a feeling now like I'm here to, what kept me sick for so long is not connecting, not telling my story, not
Uh-huh.
telling anybody what was wrong,
Yep.
and keeping my own shit in my head.
Mhm.
And as soon as I realized, even just by going to treatment and even telling the other crazies in the room who I didn't think I connected with at all, that like, holy shit, I connect with them. And there are people that understand me,
Right.
and yeah, if we can open up and be vulnerable and share even parts of what's going on, like, I'm a firm believer that taboo topics don't exist. They're
Mhm.
not a thing.
Yeah.
Like there's shame and healing that people need to get through if they think that they can't talk about a certain topic. Like
Uh-huh.
because it's what keeps us sick, keeps
Yeah,
us
it
down.
does. Vulnerability. No, that's so important. I think because I work in treatment, I sponsor other guys. I have people that reach out to me on our PRP phone or social media, and they're looking for some sort of help or some sort of direction. And I kind of as the years went on, I started to learn that, like, well, being vulnerable specifically, it's you can reach people a lot more effectively when you're open, honest, transparent, and vulnerable, telling people all the dark places, all the places I fall short, all of these things I still struggle with, versus, oh yeah, my life is great, I've been sober, I got kids now, I'm married, I got a good job. Like, what the hell, they can't relate to that. You know what I mean? Like things like that.
Right.
um
Well, and it's like I always say, like, telling my story isn't about me telling my story. It's
uh-huh.
like about sharing and letting people know that, like, if you can it's about like sharing the dark parts of my story that like people can relate to and understand that like if I'm willing to talk about something like that, that they can talk about their things, you know, and
Yes.
then it's just like a constant circle of healing. Hopefully, like that's the goal, you know,
Yeah.
because that was what kept me down too, is like I'm a small town girl from North Dakota that feels alone and doesn't know how to connect with people because everybody around here, it's like North Dakota nice, which is not nice. Nice and kind are not the same thing, I'm finding out. Nice is passive, and it's we don't talk about that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if he hits his wife, that's their marriage problem, you know,
Right.
and it's no one speaks of it, you know, and it's that's not kindness in the slightest. So I'm not about
No.
being North Dakota nice anymore. I'm like, nope, we're being friggin' rural real, or I don't know, make up
Yeah,
something
yeah,
else.
I
Like
get it.
we're getting honest because like we need to out what's wrong. So then this generational trauma stops. Like, yeah, I'm an advocate
Blair,
for
look at Blair. She's like, yeah, Minnesota nice over here.
it. No,
The same thing.
it's not a
Hey,
thing. Like,
and you know, Mariah, Blair did have a question. I seen it, Blair.
uh-huh.
But that's actually a question I'm gonna ask you anyways. Basically, it's gonna be the same
Okay.
thing.
I
So
am
speaking of that,
honestly, I've been so busy talking. I just, I'm kind of glad that I'm just seeing all the comments because I think it would have like completely thrown me for a loop just because I'm nervous. But I love you guys so much.
yeah. So
Ah,
we're gonna speaking of the questions, I'm gonna get into asking you some
mhm.
now as we wrap this up. Um, so the first question, Mariah, is what was the hardest part about early recovery for you?
Everything.
Right?
uh, I think it was like completely finding out my new identity.
Uh-huh.
Like, and it was that stubborn factor that wanted to hold on to those old friends. You know, I was on standing up. I literally in treatment, I was telling my counselor that my dealer was like such a good guy and like he wouldn't have hurt me, you know. And I still really truly honestly, if I were to meet him in any world, if he were to be clean and we were to, I would love to have a conversation with him because
Hmm.
I wasn't a bad person when I was using, you know. I was a sick person, I was a
Yeah.
sad person, and I needed
Hmm.
help. um but yeah, that was like super hard to try to like remove those people, places, and things
Right.
and completely like surrender and let myself find new people, places, and things. It sucked
Hmm.
a lot.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of
No,
crying.
I actually technically I never went through that process because I got sober in California. If I got sober and living in Hawaii still, oh, it would have been much more difficult because I mean I'm on an island and I know everybody. They know me. They can come over anytime and they know my cell phone number and it's like all bad.
Yeah.
Like when people found out I got sober, I'm sure a lot of them was like, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. It's because like I was just a maniac, man. It's crazy.
Well, and it's all that like the people that aren't understanding why you're trying to heal or kind of like the depths of what you're trying to dig your way out of. They're just
Hmm.
like, oh, so you're better than us? Oh, so,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and I was so fragile and I didn't know how to answer. I didn't even know what the answer was, let alone what to
Hmm.
say to them. Like,
Right. Sounds like you were trying to get better. You weren't better than them. You're just trying to get better. You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is the kind of Blair. I'm sure you're still here, Blair. So it was very similar, Blair's question to this next one. So this next question is, what is it like being the only sober person in your immediate family?
That's really hard.
Hmm.
I am, I don't know. I feel like um, I think my sisters and I all have like our own interpretation of why we're the black sheep
Oh,
of
okay.
our family. I've always felt a little off and different anyway. Like my sisters call me college because I went that route. And like, I don't know. I'm the one that's like in Sheldon, North Dakota, like all these like political views that are completely different than like what's around me, you know? And
Uh-huh.
so now with this view and this lifestyle being a lot different, it's hard because I come from like a very alcohol heavy family. It's what we
Hmm.
do. Like
Right.
it's a special occasion and it's alcohol is the theme. And then anything else that happens is like fine.
Right, right.
But
Uh,
it's like coming up like 4th of July, it's alcohol, and then like
mhm.
whoever shows up,
Yeah.
and like that's it, and that's just how it is, and like one year we had Christmas like at my parents' bar. That's another fun fact that I left out. So my dad's dad, my grandpa on his side was very abusive towards him when he was a kid, and he was he owned a bar,
Mhm.
and he ended up dying from complications of like alcohol. Initially, like you know, he got sober, and then like 5 years later or something, it caught up with him. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, that's been really difficult. Like having Christmas in a bar,
Yeah.
and like being like that's like the place that we meet. It's like the bar, it's the
Hmm.
the the place. It's like our second home. I used to do my homework at the back table,
Yeah.
after school, and so it's hard, even just like basic holidays. And like, actually, I'm celebrating 2 years in September, and my older sister's, her wedding reception is that day. They've already gotten married, but during COVID. So now they're having a big reception that same
Okay.
day. But it's literally like a multiple keg wedding, open bar, because
Mhm.
that's how my family rolls. It's how a lot of
Right.
celebrations are. A lot of families do things that way. And it's really challenging
Hmm.
being like,
Well, hey, at least you'll be the only one to remember everything that happened the night before.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's hard. I feel left out, you know.
Yeah.
It hurts,
Yeah.
but at least I
Um,
know that like when I can come on Instagram and come onto the lives here, that I have like a whole nother family that I'm like
right.
building.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really cool to like have two and pick and choose where I'm going and what I'm comfortable with. So
Right. Right. Okay, so what's the sober community like in Fargo, North Dakota?
I it's probably small from what I've seen. Very, very small compared to the drinking culture that's up here. We're a huge binge drinking city.
Mm.
Um, and I think Fargo is, of course, like more progressive, like any other city would be,
Mhm.
versus like literally, I worry so much about the small towns around here. Like what's going on with the kids growing up in those homes when,
Uh-huh.
literally a 30 pack of Bush Light or whatever, like insert cheap beer here, like
Right.
it's so normal to drink it all day long, all the time.
Yeah.
I worry about it. I think it's very odd being one of not many sober people in the area.
Uh-huh. But
But
that's, I mean, again, hats off to you. You're surrounded in your town with people who drink. Your immediate family, the same thing, but you still manage to stay sober through all of this, man. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's harder to do than getting a master's degree, in my opinion.
it really is.
Yeah.
For sure, it really is. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't be able to do this and get my master's at the same time, I don't think. So I'm glad
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
did one, then focused on.
Yeah. Right. Um, okay. So next one is, um, what still trips you up today? Like, what do you do when you get triggered? Because you're around it a lot.
Yeah, I am. Um, yeah, I guess if I'm in a low mood, if something's happening that day with me emotionally or mentally,
Hmm.
I like my we just had a funeral for my uncle, like in a bar. And that's normal. Like he was a pretty heavy drinker, and so
Hmm.
it's normal. It's normal for my family. It's weird. But it's hard because when I'm triggered like that, I know that I can reach out to people. I have to make like a plan ahead of time when I know that
Okay.
I'm going to be triggered. Like when I know that I'm going to be in a situation that's going to make me
Hmm.
have an issue. But um, sometimes, like I was listening to this podcast, and they were like just someone out of the blue started talking about like the awesomeness of cocaine and how cool, how great it is, and
Uh-huh.
how it's like the fixer of all things. And I stopped the podcast and just sobbed. I like cried for
Yeah.
like a while, like it just because it scared me almost. It was
Yeah.
like I wasn't expecting it, because it's kind of like running into like an ex that you're still in love with,
Oh,
but
right.
that
Yeah.
you're
Uh-huh.
like, I still love the fuck out of you, and you're on my mind all the time.
Hmm.
And I wish that things could be different and we could be together. Somehow everybody in the world thinks that you're a great person, but you're extremely toxic and I can't be with you.
Right. Yeah.
And running into them literally everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard.
Oh,
But honestly, the
that,
connections with
that's a very
people,
good analogy.
it's
I
a real
understood
one.
that one. Yeah.
Well, because like literally using was like one of my first, I think it was my first love.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a
Okay,
really
so the
weird
last,
breakup.
yeah, the last question, the last question, right, is what would you say to the newcomer to encourage them, or somebody that's trying to get sober right now?
Um, so I got clean in a 12-step program.
Uh-huh.
So my initial response is to like just keep going back, like just
Yeah.
keep going, just keep reaching out,
Hmm.
keep showing up for yourself, even if you want to skip and don't, want to see anyone. That's when you need to see someone. That's when you
Yeah.
need to talk about it, is when you don't want to talk about it, or
Hmm.
um, and to honestly not expect it to be fixed like in a month, in 2 months, like
Uh-huh.
understand that this is literally a lifelong thing. Like picture yourself being like 80, 85, and you're
Hmm.
still going to be on this journey. So if you can like understand that it's going to take your whole life to undo how you've been living your whole life,
Right. Right.
like it's kind of that, give yourself some grace and
Hmm.
understand that like shit happens. People have a really hard time trying to revamp their whole life, but like it's
Hmm.
so doable. And clearly like this, like pro recovery power and like
Hmm.
any 12 step or whatever it is, like look around, there's sober people everywhere.
Yeah.
And there are people with a lot like more rough or whatever. Like comparison is a thief of joy, so don't compare your story to anybody else's.
That's a good one.
If you feel like you have a problem and you feel like your life is becoming unmanageable because of a substance or a behavior, you are valid in every respect to get clean, or to get sober, or to stop that behavior and just get help. Just
Hmm.
ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, thank you so much. You see how fast the time just goes by?
Yeah.
Man, I know, right? It's done. It's over already. It's like, my goodness. Um, but thank you again, Mariah. It's so encouraging. Like even as a man, for me, it's just very encouraging hearing, like the struggles and like how you overcame certain things, and you still being honest and talking about how you still have certain struggles even though you're sober. It's not like it's not like, yeah, we're sober and like everything is great. We don't have problems today, like no, like recovery, being sober, it taught me and equipped me with tools on how to handle life when it happens to me. Like
Yeah.
me personally, like sober wasn't really the goal. Like, okay, sober is the goal. It was, no, that's where my life is gonna start. There. And then
Right.
yeah, that
I thought that was it.
yeah.
Especially in treatment, I was like, when I'm done drinking and using drugs, when I can actually stop doing that, then life's going to be fantastic. And then
Hmm.
I can like live my life however. But yeah, I didn't realize that like, life happens. And I'm going to always want to lean on a drink or whatever is literally at my fingertips in a
Right.
in a moment of emotion.
Yeah.
Like I'm always going to want that escape. So
Yep.
best to look in myself and figure out like what it is,
Yeah,
like what needs to
exactly. I
actually be
remember
addressed instead of covered up.
speaking of that, I remember early on in recovery, somebody told me, he told me, look, there's no chemical solution to a spiritual problem. Cause,
Yes.
cause I was pumping my body full of chemicals, trying to fill this void, trying to fill all these holes I got of like no validation, low self-esteem, all these things, just pumping my body, hoping it'll fix it.
Right.
And it was a temporary fix, but it
Yeah,
did way more damage, in the long run.
it did.
But, so, but
I love
anyways,
that.
hey, thank you again so much. Once a month, I'm trying to do it once a month where I get people I went live with already, because you can go live with 4 people now on Instagram.
Oh yeah,
So it
nice.
cannot be like, me, you, and 2 other people. And we do a little recovery, clean, sober talk, maybe topics,
Yep.
things like that. And I definitely want you to come back.
Oh hell
So,
yeah. Yes. Yeah, I want to
yeah.
be part of that.
Yeah, so I'll be in touch. Like I'll call you, and then we keep in touch and everything,
Okay.
and figure that all out. But again, thank you so much, for your time. This hour that you gave to us, you'll never get it back. So that's a great example of being, something recovery taught me that totally, just this alone, it just changed my whole life. When it taught me to think about you more than I think about me. Just that alone, like, just will change your life. If
Yeah.
people just start doing that, oh my goodness, man, that
Yeah.
literally is life changing. in a
Yeah,
good
you
way,
asking
in
me
a
to
good
come
way.
live, I was just like, maybe by any chance, if anybody could hear anything that I have to say and resonate with it, or feel like they're seen or heard in any regard, like that's my goal. And I just want to say thank you so much for everybody that's like writing in all the comments. That's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for this
Yeah.
opportunity.
There's so much people that really seem to, relate, and they're very grateful for you. So much thank yous, and oh man, look at all of this, and then boom, you carried the message today. Somebody just wrote that down there, 12 step, and then that's what we do. We carry the
Yes.
message. I will carry this message to the day I die. I literally will, and with Pro Recovery Power, if my son wants to, he can carry the message for me, even long after I'm gone, with the nonprofit. So, we could stay on another hour and talk.
I know, I know.
Yeah, it's so much fun, man. But again, bro, I can't thank you enough. I will keep in touch with you though, and we can plan out either June, either this month or next month,
Okay.
where we can go do it again with a few two other people, and we can talk about that. Who we're gonna invite, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm down.
yeah.
Let's get a
But
group
thank you
together.
again. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. I'll jump on the other live.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Oh, hey, we don't want to go. Oh, there we go. Okay, guys. So that was Mariah's story. I see that you guys really liked it. I'm going to go live again in about 2 hours at 3 o'clock. It's 1 now, 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time with Summer, and we're going to find out why Summer stopped drinking. So stay tuned for that, guys. I'll see you then. Thank you.